Hello and welcome to Seymour Sports Corner. I'm your host, David Seymour. As you guys know, I'm an aspiring sports broadcaster currently going to school at Full Sail, pursuing my degree in sports broadcasting. Just doing this little podcast, trying to get my name out there and get used to being in front of the microphone and on camera. Today we got a special guest. I'm a big member of this Hogs Talk Nation on Facebook. And one of our moderators and admins here, Poppa Deaux, agreed to come on the show. As much fun as it is hearing my own voice, every once in a while it's nice to hear somebody else's opinion. So this will be a command-heavy episode as we talk some Hogs Talk today here on Seymour Sports Corner. How you doing today, Papa?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing great, man. So it was a heartbreaking loss yesterday.
Was it?
For as well as we played, probably the best offensive performance we had all season. Our offensive line played the best game they've played all season for sure.
Where had that offensive line been at all season was my biggest question.
Most
They looked great yesterday.
You know, I talk all the time that every game we've played except for game one this year and then now yesterday, every commentator has said this team has matched their sack total for the season against Washington today. And it's been like that every game. And then the only sack they give up, which was the nail in the coffin sack for the, sack fumble recovered by Hassan Reddick. And the rest was history. But really, I think that the game came down to Ron Rivera not throwing the challenge flag. Waiting to see the replay before he threw the challenge flag on Devontae Smith's fourth down reception.
We can always sit here and look back on things, but as a former player, as a coach, coached many years myself, not claiming to be the greatest or anything, but when I think what people are failing to realize is that Philadelphia was very, very smart by hurrying up and getting the next play off so that it couldn't be reviewed. I don't think it was so much Ron drug his feet. You also got to put that, you got to give the people he's got sitting up in the booth that he's listening to in his ear, it's got to be definitive, because when it's a game as close as what it was yesterday, you don't want that timeout's crucial, and you don't want to lose it because of losing the challenge. And so you want to know definitively he really, and had they had that time, had something happen, had one of our guys fail and acted like he had a cramp or something like that, where our people in the booth up top could have watched it and be like, no, coach, throw the flag. Then I really think Ron's getting a raw deal on this. And trust me, I'm one of Ron's biggest critics. But, from a coaching standpoint myself, and as we were watching it, we all clearly seen how fast it happened and how smart Philadelphia and their organization was to get the next play off so that we couldn't challenge it.
Most definitely.
But, that's just one of them things. Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of being one of Ron's biggest critics, I've tried to be a Ron supporter as much as I could.
Me too. I like Ron. I do.
He's a good character guy.
Good guy. Great guy.
And the culture that he brought to the team in the midst of everything that was going on with Dan Snyder, in the midst of everything that was going on with the name change, in the midst of him having cancer, right? He was able to stand strong through all of that and really kind of be a rock for our organization. So I really hate that he is getting the raw deal that he is, and that we haven't seen the success that, he's hoped for and we as fans have hoped for. I saw a report on Twitter, and these things go back and forth all over the place, but I saw something saying that there's big rumors that Ron's days are numbered, that within the next couple of days or so he could end up being fired.
Wow.
That Eric Bieniemy's actually been head coach of the football team in everything except for name. And I've looked at the Ron on the sidelines this season, he has seemed a little bit more disengaged than usual. He hasn't
say that, I could, when you put it in that light, I could see how. Yeah, I mean, wow, that's some information that's new to me. It's just, hey, wow, I'm sitting here like, what, really? But
Matt, what do
he's
you think about Eric Bieniemy's job? With all of that coming into
well.
play, and
What I liked most about EB coming over, as I refer to him, um, was that he's more. I think he's more up to this new style of football. The game has evolved
most
from
definitely,
from 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 back in the heydays when Washington were known as the Redskins, and we had the Hogs and all those guys and stuff, and we won our 3 Super Bowls and everything. Uh, a lot of that had to do with the offensive line, the personnel, the ownership, great coaches, the players, and everything. And a lot of things just have went to where it's not like that anymore. And it just so many of these older coaches they have a hard time adapting to as the game has evolved. Like whenever I played, it was a ground and pound. Then you had the West Coast. Now all these different types of offenses and defenses. I mean, the game is just constantly evolving, and I think that's what EB's brought to our organization. Was he's brought some freshness, some newness, the schemes and stuff that he likes to try to run, and the things that he was able to do as a player and as a coach for Kansas City. And I think it's a breath of fresh air, and I like seeing you could tell he's passionate about it, but he's also trying to where he I like how sometimes he gets a little colorful with his commentary. He'll let a expletive something come out here and there, but and that's the kind of coach, I like a coach that's got a little grit to him, but I also understand you got to be PC nowadays. People get a little hurt when you say something that it hurts their delicate ears.
yes, sir. I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed about watching EB coach is he's not geared up to just do his offense, right? It's not, he hasn't come in here with this is my game plan and this is how we're going to run it from week to week based on how
Right.
Sam Howell's playing or how Jahan Dotson's playing this week, or
I'll
he's
talk
kind of,
about somebody that had a breakout game yesterday.
well, definitely he sure did. But you look at the way that he's progressed this offense, and it's a little bit different each week based
Yeah.
on what he's seen the week before. And I mean, and if you boil it down, here we are, just right about halfway through the season, and across the board, the offense played their absolute best
Yep.
game of the year. Our running game was lights out for most of the game. Jahan Dotson finally
Big
broke.
Rob Antonio Gibson was eating yesterday. The offensive line was opening up holes that my crippled tail could have ran through.
Most
I mean, it was a beautiful thing to see. And then, you also can't forget about special teams. What about Joey Sly kicking, setting a
oh
new
yeah,
record 61-yard field goal? I mean,
most definitely.
wow. When you got a
Yeah,
guy kicking a
you
61-yard
gotta,
field goal, you don't expect to come up on the short end of the scoreboard.
no, you definitely don't. And winning the turnover battle, I've seen a lot of. I'm in a bunch of different Facebook groups that
Mm-hmm.
that tailor to our team.
Right.
And I've seen a lot of guys that are bashing our defense, and I'm not going to say that for as much money and as much talent as we have on that defense, I am not going to say that we are playing up to par, because we're not.
No.
We've invested too much in that defense for us to be giving up the amount of points and yards that we're giving
Uh-huh.
up. But
Uh-huh.
it's not like that they played a bad game. If you
No.
think about it, we really, if it's not for the one interception down in the red zone and the sack fumble
This,
there at the
yep.
end of the
Yep.
game,
Mm-hmm.
they held up beautifully.
Right.
I think we definitely overdrafted Emmanuel Forbes, and I was kind of
I think we may have did him an injustice by putting him out there as quick. I think
maybe
it's people. It's so easy for so many people that haven't actually played the game.
most definitely
And it's different from being a fan and actually playing the game and to having some football knowledge. And some people think they've got a ton of it just because they've played Madden and this, that, and the other.
right.
But I mean, there's all different facets to it. But at each level, you got your Pop Warner, your Pee Wee, and Little League and all that stuff, and then middle school, high school. And each time you grow up a level, the game gets faster and faster and faster. And, you got to be smarter. You got to be better. You can't just rely on whoopsie doo plays, and next thing you know, little Jimmy's running down the sideline scoring a touchdown. Well, when you get to the pros, everybody's
Right.
The man from where in their regard or position wise. Right. And so I mean, I just think sometimes some people have to get used to playing at that higher level. And I think one of the biggest things, just my personal opinion, I think he's got it. We got to find a way to bulk him up. If we're going to keep him, we got to get some meat on the guy, but that way he can get in there and bang it out with these receivers in the NFL.
Especially guys like AJ Brown. I mean, if you're gonna put him on somebody, put him on Devontae Smith. They're about the same size, right?
Right. There you go.
Why are we pairing him up with AJ?
I would have did exactly what Philadelphia did. If Washington was giving me that matchup, I'd have did the same thing. I'd have picked on the rookie.
I look at what you were just saying about the difference in the college and the pro level, and I tell people this all the time, right? Guys look good in college and look better than what they maybe are.
Oh yeah.
In college, in college now, he played in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt, right? In college, every time he suited up to play against somebody, he probably played against 4 or 5 NFL players.
He played against some of the greats.
Right. The problem is now you're in the NFL, everybody's an NFL player.
Everybody's the greatest.
Right. What's the new word that they're using? Everybody's him.
Yeah, everybody's that guy.
Yeah. So I definitely hope that he's able to come around. I was really disappointed that we didn't use any of our draft capital on offensive line last year.
Don't get me started. As a career offensive lineman myself, that's one of the reasons why. It's in the trenches. So I mean,
what kind of new style offense we're running? You're winning the game based on who you're blocking or who can't block you.
I'm the type of guy, whenever I watch any football game, what I'm watching is those big guys up front. I'm watching what's happening because that's where all the real work happens. If it ain't defensively and offensively, the trenches is where it happens. If you ain't got guys up there. Now, if we had an offensive line to mirror our defensive line, man, I'd hate to shudder. I'd shudder to think the what our record would be, how many points we would have, the stats. We definitely wouldn't have the high sack that record.
Definitely, to me, it would probably look a little bit like we did back in the 80s and early 90s.
There you go. Because I definitely think we'd be feeding EB. EB would be having Big Rob run a lot more. And I tell you what, was it last week or the week before, the Rodriguez kid? He had a really good game there at the end. It was one of them games the past 2 weeks, but he came in and had some really good runs. I don't know. I'm not sure if something was up with Robinson or not. I can't remember what was going on, if they were just trying to give the kid some burn.
I really think they were just trying to get a spark and give the kids some.
He sparked. If that was the case, the kid come in and spark.
Yeah. Yep. So what do you think? We're coming up on the trade deadline, right? Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern time is the last trades that can be made. Now, Leonard Williams, the defensive lineman for the New York Giants, just got traded earlier today to Seattle for a 2nd round and a 5th round pick. I've heard reports that both Chase Young and Montez Sweat are on the trade block. Not that they'll trade both of them, but they're open to trading either or. Apparently, Atlanta's offered us a 3rd round pick, which I'm completely against. We'll get a 3rd round pick if he leaves in free agency.
Yeah,
right. That's a compensatory pick that we get anyway.
Right.
And honestly, I don't know that I want to trade a bunch of players away for draft capital.
No.
Right. If in my personal and humble opinion, right, is if we're going to trade away one of these 2 beasts of a defensive ends that we've got, then we've got to get starting caliber offensive linemen back in return. Like if Atlanta wants to trade for one of these guys, send us Jake Matthews.
That part. Hey, I knew there was a reason. I knew there was a reason we liked one another.
And you look over at Denver, they said Garrett Bowles, their big left tackle,
Mhm.
is available for trade. Former first round talent. He had a few off the field issues when he first started, but they got
Mhm.
him calmed down, and he's been playing lights out. And for me, that's where we need to be looking at the trade deadline. We're not completely out of it. The NFC's wide open, right? We may not
Mhm.
have. I don't know that we really have a shot to win our division as much as I'd love us to, but because we're already 0-3 in division play. But that being said, we could still hunt us out a wild card spot, and
Oh yeah,
if we can get rid of somebody, or even get rid of some of our own draft capital to
yeah.
bring in
Me
some of
per-
these
Me personally,
offensive
I
linemen.
hope that we don't lose. I'm a fan of both Chase and Montez. I wouldn't want to lose either one of those four guys we got up front defensively. I just think it's important for us to keep them. We've worked hard to get them. We need to do what we need to do to keep them, but we need to put that same attention we put on that front. Now that attention needs to be put towards our offensive line. So if and I get it, it's a business. If we can
Right.
get a good pick or some trades, or get a couple guys for one of them, then I'm all for it. But I'm not, I think I'm in definite agreement with you that it needs to be. I think that's where the focus needs to be, because
Right.
that's where we're hurting at bad.
It's where we're hurting at bad. And if you start trading pieces off for draft picks in the future, I feel like it feels like you're throwing the towel in. And
Right. That's why
we've
that's
been
why I don't
we've
think
been
we ought to
hovering
get rid
around
of
this
either four of them.
mediocrity.
But
Yeah. Well, and I think the biggest deal is I don't think that we're going to be able to sign both of them in the offseason.
well,
You're
what?
looking at both
Yeah.
of them are going to command high dollar contracts. Not that I really think Chase Young should, for the simple fact that he
Well,
spent
after
most of
every
it injured.
exactly that part.
Right?
That part.
We
I
we need to
mean,
see that you're going to stay healthy before I give you Nick
one
Bosa type money.
right. One of the things I really do like about how Chase Young's he's definitely conducted himself as a professional this year.
Most definitely.
He's not been one of these guys going to social media and this, that, and the other, and
Yeah, for
what
sure.
what about me? Well, look at what I did. He's being very humble, and I think he's smart for doing that, because that could definitely help him command, or no pun intended, but get some kind of compensation as a result, if it be go to another team, or
Well,
you know
and what I like is you're right. He's not doing this, prideful, egocentric,
yeah,
look at me thing, but he's out there playing his tail
he's
off and
playing lights out football, has
looking
all
like he
season.
did, looking like he did as a
Mm-hmm.
rookie, and
Yep.
quietly, right under the radar, quietly, just having one of the best seasons of defensive ends having
Mm-hmm.
right now, and I do like that. I would love for us to keep them both, but
Yeah.
salary cap probably states that we're going to have to get rid of one of them, and we might
Right.
as well get something in return. But
Yeah.
I want somebody that's going to replace them. I don't want to pick that I'm going to have to figure out what it might be in the future. We've talked about salary cap, which brings us to general manager. Even if Ron doesn't get fired in the middle of the year, which I would really hate. I always
Yeah.
hate to see coach get fired in the
I
middle
think
of the
he's
year.
deserved at least to be able to finish out the season.
Right. And I've
It,
always
it
found him
might
to
be,
be
it might that might
respectful.
that might be part of the plan. With what you divulged earlier at the beginning of the
Yeah.
conversation today. I was sitting here like, wow, really? I didn't think about it that light. But if indeed, let's think, hypothetically here, if indeed that's what's going on, let him stay there. Let him be that puppet.
Right.
Let's
Yeah.
let's 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 give them. I mean, because Ron's worked hard for us, I think after this season, it's definitely Ron's time to move on in some
Yeah.
capacity, if not from the squad, at least in the head coach capacity. I think if he needs to move on
Well,
into office or whatever, that's fine.
I would really like to see him, if they're going to do that, to just gut the whole thing.
Yeah,
Let's bring in a real general manager. I'm not saying that Jason Wright's necessarily been horrible,
no,
but you've not addressed all of the needs, right?
mm-hmm.
And I know Ron's a defensive guy, and Jack Del Rio's a big personality in there,
Yeah,
which would warrant why all of our picks keep going to one side of the ball as compared to the other. And and really what we need is a real general manager that can say, hey, no, guys, I understand that this is a player that you really like, but this is a need that we have. We can't just, we can't keep filling this with some practice squad players and hoping that it pans out,
Right.
hoping we find the right undrafted guy. This is the direction I'm going to go. And so I think having a real strong backbone GM to get in there and pair him with a coach, you find this around the league that teams that do this have the most success, right? You look at San Francisco right now, right? They brought in John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan all at the same time. Dan Campbell and the GM up in Detroit all came in at the same time, and you can see that it wasn't a quick turnaround. They didn't immediately start winning games, but as they were able to collectively build the team together because they had the same idea, now
Right.
you're seeing the success that's sustained. And I would really like to see Josh Harris do something similar to that.
Yeah, I definitely. I was excited whenever the Snyder era ended, and that we've got new ownership, and that I think that's been a spark. I wished, even though our record is not nowhere near what we would like for it to be at 3-5 now.
Yes, sir.
So you still hate that it's there, but I like to think back that there's a couple of them that could have went our way if we yes, it stinks that we lost to the Giants, but we barely lost to the Giants. It stinks that we lost to Philadelphia yesterday, but we barely lost to Phil. I mean, we're
the first time.
A play or two here, and then we could very easily be 6-2 right now.
Most definitely.
Buffalo and Chicago are the only two teams that just came out, punched us in the mouth, and just never let up off of us. I mean, they just kicked us. You thought we'd took their lunch money or something, and Big Brother come and got us because they whooped our tails. But that's just how crazy it is. We're sitting at 3-5, and just a play here, a play there. We could be sitting here and having a totally different discussions.
Oh, most definitely. I agree with you. And at 6-2, I don't think we're questioning whether Ron Rivera has a job.
Yeah, that wouldn't be part of the discussion. No. It's great. No. EB and Ron Rivera, they're doing great. Yeah. They're all getting along. They'll be seen hanging out at the Waffle House, getting the old scattered, smothered, and covered.
Do they have Waffle Houses in Washington, D.C.? It might be too.
No,
politicians.
What was it? Somebody told me that up there they don't have. I don't think they have the Waffle Houses. It's not as prominent up there as it is here.
I know they have them in Virginia, and I know they have them in Maryland. I've been to both of those places, but I don't know if Washington, D.C. has them.
I'm not positive, but I thought it was funny when some of them, when I said something in the stream the other week about scattered, smothered, and covered, and then the faithful Waffle House people that I know that have visited that establishment quickly, they were chiming in. It was like, yeah, we've been there. It's good.
Yes,
everybody was like, what is that? What is that? I was like, it looks like the menu, the play call sheet that EB's holding. I said, that's where I came up with it. I thought it was funny, but I thought he did a lot. I thought EB did a lot better yesterday. It just stinks when you're so close to getting there, and you play lights out, and then you just the one sack we get against our offensive line. It cost us. We had one sack compared to the entire previous season. I will take that game yesterday and their efforts.
Oh, most definitely. I bet you Sam Howell's feeling a little less sore this morning than he has any other morning this season.
Yeah, because man, golly, the kid's tough. Is he our future? I don't know, but he's definitely our right now. And I can't say nothing bad about the kid, other than the common thing that everybody else says. Sometimes he holds the ball too long,
and that's just young quarterback.
And that's being young. That's like I was saying earlier about getting used to the speed of the game. NFL, it is so fast.
I was a huge Sam Howell fan when he was at North Carolina.
I'm sorry. I'm a Duke fan. No reason I said that because I'm a Duke fan.
Oh yeah. I'm not a North Carolina fan.
I'm just joking with you, brother. I'm just the Tar Heel Duke Blue Devil thing. I kind of had to slide that one in there. It's kind of like Redskins Cowboys.
Yeah, my grandparents are from North Carolina, so I know all
Awesome.
about Duke, North
Yeah,
Carolina.
it's a big
I actually
rivalry.
watched, I actually watched my grandma graduate from Duke University with her
Awesome.
degree in
Hey,
history.
even
So,
man, you come from good stock, brother. You come from good
yes,
stock.
sir. So, but I was a huge fan watching Sam Howell when he was at North Carolina, and I was on
Oh, he was
record.
good. He was
He was
he
good.
was really
I
good in
said
that program.
if he could have come out after his sophomore year, he'd have been the number one overall pick that
Yeah.
year. And then he goes back and he has the junior year that all of his weapons were gone, all of his offensive linemen were gone, and it was just a
Mm-hmm.
rough year for him. And he slides all the way to the 5th round to us. I was actually excited that we drafted him.
Yeah.
Super excited just because I'd seen his sophomore year and I knew what the kid was capable of. I knew how
Mm-hmm.
tough he was, and so I don't know if he's the quarterback of the future, right? As this plays out, as this season plays out, and we start talking about new head coaches and new GMs possibly coming in, we all know those guys want to bring in their own guys, and
Mm-hmm.
so we don't know if he's the future. But what I do know is that every week he's gotten progressively better. And he's a legit quarterback. If we don't keep him, if he doesn't stay,
He's
right,
supposed to be in the league. He
he
deserves
is
to be in the
he is
NFL. He's
yeah, most
he's a very
so
very good young man. I like the way. I think one of the biggest benefits that Washington did for him was him being able to sit last year.
oh yeah, most
You know,
definitely.
I think that because last thing we needed was another RG3 deal where we bring him in and we keep putting him behind this ragtag offensive line because our offensive line struggled last year.
Most
We were
definitely.
just blessed to have that kid that wore number 4 and he can move around.
Well, speaking of it, and Heineke's the only reason he got, Hal got the start at the end of the year. Mad respect for
Yeah.
Heineke, knowing that he wasn't going to be back, knowing that there were no plans to bring him back,
Mm-hmm.
to say, hey, look, if you're not bringing me
Turn
back,
him
if you're
loose.
not
Let's see
bringing
what he
Blake,
can do.
see what he
What do you
can do.
got? What did we have to lose by not doing that?
Right. Why are you going to have me play
Yeah.
for a half of football when you got a kid over here
Yeah.
that you have no idea what you
Let him
got in him?
go. Let's see what he did. And he
Yeah.
went in and played great.
And that's the testament to a true leader. It's one of the
Mm-hmm.
things that I've always really liked about Heineke, and I wish him all the success. I know he got
Uh-huh.
in the game at the end of the game last week, and Desmond Ritter hasn't looked like the answer down there in Atlanta, so
Right.
maybe Heineke gets another chance to start and be the savior for another
Hey,
franchise because he was our
never know.
savior.
Well, I mean, he could get the puzzle pieces could all fall into place for him. It could just be
Yeah,
destiny and it work out that way. And if it does, great, great young man. I think the world of him. I wish him all the success. Four will always have a special place with me
yes,
because
sir.
he was dang sure a spunky little guy to have back there, and I love to see him the passion he played with, and that's something
Most,
I love to see. I love to see more of that emotion. Uh, the guys from our personnel and our players. I'd like to see a little bit more of that out of our coaching staff.
most definitely.
The other week, well, I forget the call, but Ron was really, for the first time in a long time, Ron was really laying into an official.
Giants, because it was
Yeah,
germinating. This is the second year in a row. The second year in a
yeah,
row.
yep. And I mean,
So
he was laying. But I think if our fans first and foremost deserve that out of our coaching staff. I think the players for the Washington Commanders deserve to have a coach that that they can see the passion, and maybe us standing as fans and just watching through our televisions or in the stadiums or whatever, we're not behind the scenes with them all the time like they are with one another, and it could just be unfortunate that the way things have went. And
yeah.
I don't know, but I just me personally, I kind of like a little more. I'd like to see the passion come out in people.
Yeah.
Instead of just
Oh,
sitting
most
there with his
definitely.
hands folded or in his pockets.
This is a passionate game, right?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
this,
Oh,
this
I,
game is blood, sweat,
I'm the
and
type
tears.
I'll throw hats. I've
Me
lost
too.
many pair of sunglasses. Watch out, clipboards. Yeah, I've crippled them. I've
I
stomped a couple. So yeah.
yeah, most definitely. So the last thing I want to discuss with you real quick is I had again, I told you I'm in a few different of
Mm-hmm.
these Facebook groups,
Right.
and I had the pleasure of scrolling through one of them, and a guy that was at the game in one of these other groups had taken a picture with Josh Harris.
Okay.
And said that he asked Josh Harris about the name. Said we got to do something with the name, and Josh Harris told him we have to make it through this season. Now, I'm not under any kind of false pretense that we're ever going back to the Redskins.
Right. That ship sailed. It'll never happen.
It most definitely won't. I know we've got the Native American Guardians Association or whatever that's fighting for the name because their people are the ones that drew the moniker, and I love them for it. It's the greatest moniker ever for any sports franchise in the history of the world. I don't care what anybody says. I have it tattooed on my leg, and it'll always be near and dear to my heart. But I also know that. So speaking of that, I have it tattooed on my leg, and I was up in Michigan over the summer visiting my daughter, and there was actually a Native American lady that was working at the Cracker Barrel that we were at, and she stopped me and asked me about what was on my leg, and she felt like it was racist. I got to sit down and explain to her, that the original owner of the team was half Indian. The original coach of the team was a full-blooded Indian, and it all came about because of him, and that an Indian tribe had drawn this logo for us. And she said, I never knew about that. The only thing I knew is what I was taught about. This is what they used to call us. And it made me really think that, maybe it is for the better. If there is even just a little bit of this, maybe it is for the better, right? Not that it makes me happy, but maybe it's for the better. But I was never a big fan of the Commanders name. I actually liked Washington football team way better than I liked the Commanders. I felt like it was a real.
Yeah, I liked football team way better than Commanders. That was just personally.
It really felt like a huge rush job trying to just hurry up and get something out there, and Dan Snyder trying to figure out a way to really hang around is what I felt like. And so I feel like there probably is a name change. There's going to be a rebrand to try to get rid of all of the stink from Dan Snyder off of the team, which I'm all for, right? If we can wipe him completely out of the record books of ever being in the owner,
strong soap to get rid of that stench.
Right. But where would you like to see it go? I've seen the things like the Red Wolves and Warriors and different things like that thrown out. Where would you like to see the name go if you had a choice?
I don't know. I definitely. I just think more thought should have. I kind of liked. I was a fan of the Red Wolves. I thought Red Wolves would have been cool. Maybe if we could have did the Warriors or something like that. But I mean, I've heard. I think if we could have went like with the Warrior route or something like that, I think that could have been a more maybe PC kind of way of being able to keep the feather and stuff like that, and not for people to be able to take it as a derogatory referral to Native Americans or whatever. And I know that that's what they feel about the name Redskins, and I understand that and respect that. But as so many others, I just don't believe that is the case or was the case when we were known as that.
Right. It was never meant to be any of.
Yeah, I think it was. When we went from the Braves to the Redskins.
Yeah, 1932 the Braves, 1933 the Redskins.
Right, and then we were that till we became. And I just think it was so many people, and I'm not one of these big political people, but I think some people just the wrong ones picked that battle and made a big stink about it and got this buddy and that buddy in and people started drinking the tea or whatever. and yeah, well, you know what, since you put it that way, and then when before that, and then they would still refer to it. And it's been an adjustment. I know a lot of people refer to it as with in different, I don't care what anybody calls our team, whether it be Redskins, team, Commanders, just as long as they're cheering for the burgundy and gold. That's what I love. That's why me and Brian Baldwin created Hogs Talk Nation. And we try to keep the negativity down, but we also try to let people to be able to ventilate, to vent their frustrations, because being a Washington fan, it's frustrating, and we got to be able to vent. So if we can't vent with one another, but it's one thing to be able to have a adult conversation than sitting there calling somebody stupid or out of their name or saying that they're special and just really getting nasty with it. Those are the types of things that we don't tolerate. And if we'll restrict somebody's posting abilities and being able to comment and stuff, and if they don't want to listen, we'll show them where the door is. They can go somewhere else where they let that kind of stuff happen. But we just gotta keep chugging along. But I just think that I felt that the fans really weren't as involved as much as they should have been. Because I don't know where Commanders came from.
I have no idea either. So I was actually in prison at the time of the name change. I remember when it came across ESPN, and it was aggravating because all the little polls, obviously they didn't adhere to any of them, but all the little polls that were out, I wasn't able to be a part of that, right? And the one that I floated around the entire time that I was in prison, and I'm going to float it out to you and see what you have to think, okay? One of my favorite helmets of all time that we had was the yellow helmet with the red R, the circle around it, and the feathers coming off the back. And so if we called ourselves the Washington Renegades and used that R as our moniker, that to me would be we could keep all of our old uniforms, bring back those old yellow helmets. It was one of my favorite helmets that we had of all time, and we'd still be able to keep some of who we are with being able to change the name. I lost you. I can't hear you.
Sorry, my dogs are barking because my wife got home, so that's why I was trying to cut the microphone off so that we weren't recording dogs barking. I'm sorry to the
no, you're good.
But yeah. Shoot, I blew my train of thought there. What was we saying? Yeah. I had, when I thought, when you were sitting there saying that, I was like, wow, hey, I've never, the Renegades. I like that. I think that's, And I don't know that and there's probably, I know there's going to be bunches of people. Yeah, I said that. You meant no, I don't remember anybody saying that. But I think that would be a good ploy, and a nice way to be able to bring back that R. Yeah, I think that would be awesome to keep the same color scheme. Yeah, I like that. I like that idea. I really do. Yeah. Kind of go old school with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
I don't think I was even really old enough to remember those helmets being in use other than like on a throwback day or whatever. But for whatever reason, I remember seeing those helmets when I was a kid, and to me, it was just the coolest helmet in the world. And so I don't know, when we started with this whole name change thing, I thought, man, that's the direction we need to go.
Man,
and of course,
I wish you'd said that. Whenever they was when they was doing all that change, if you'd have been able to post that in Hogs Talk, well, we might have got a little traction. We could have got some traction.
Well, we got till the end of the season to start getting some traction on it now.
Hey, I'm with you. As far that being the first time that I've heard that, personally, I could get down with that. I definitely could. And going back, because I think simpler is better. I think there could be little ways of tweaking it, designed to modernize it a little, but still, I think it'd be really cool.
Got all kinds of graphic people in there. I mean,
it's Nike. They can do anything.
As the Oregon Ducks get, they
can do anything. Yes, them uniforms, they can do anything, brother.
Yes, sir. All right, man, Poppa Deaux, I really appreciate you taking the time out your day to come be on here. It's actually nice to have a conversation with somebody other than just hearing my own voice. Right. So this is probably one of my favorite podcasts that I've done so far.
Well, so maybe we can get back together sometime, and if these guys get things turned around, maybe you can have me back, or maybe we can get Fat Boy to come on and join in with you, because I know he would absolutely love this. And I was trying to speak to him earlier to let him know, hey man, you need to check your inbox. I forgot a guy that's messaging you. You need to check your messages. But he's been busy working, so I haven't been able to get a hold of him. But yeah, like I said, he and I been good. We've been good, and we've been able to build Hogs Talk Nation to, I think we're right about 7,000 members strong right now. And it's just fun to be able to get all of us together and watch the games and have a good time and the camaraderie we have.
It was all of last season, so I got a super huge discount on the NFL Sunday ticket this year because of being a student. I didn't know I was going to get that, but I mean, like $300 discount on it, and it was awesome. So, but all of last year, I was on Hogs Talk Nation watching Brian's stream of the games, man, and he's a hoot. So I'd definitely love to get him on.
He is so funny. He's so funny. People kill me. They'll come on my stream. Papa, we should go. You score. You going to do the truffle shuffle? I'm like, no. That's Brian's signature dance. That's his dance. I'm not going to, he's not going to be hitting me up. It's copyright infringement. You're doing my little dance. So, my little thing, I got my little fabric helmet and I got my little commander's cap that I made and, a few other things. And I think after touchdowns, we'll do a little celebratory shot, whatever anybody, if you're drinking water, sweet tea, whatever, Mountain Dew, I've been on this peanut butter whiskey kick here lately. So yesterday I got 4 of them jokers in though. I was feeling pretty good after the game.
I bet you were.
But yeah, I absolutely enjoyed it, man. I absolutely enjoyed it. Thank you for having me, and hopefully I wasn't too heavy of a load for you to have to carry me in this ordeal here.
Oh no, you did great, man. It was definitely a joy.
Well, I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
All right.